This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 119, about Gotham, A Dark Knight, Season 4, episode 14, Reunion.
I'm David Mazuz, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Drew Powell, and you're listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
This is Robin Lloyd Taylor, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Welcome back, Gothamites. Welcome back, fellow detectives. This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 119, where we are looking at episode 14 of season 4 of Gotham, Reunion. Yes, a lot of people are getting reunited here in this episode. And it's all fairly warm and fuzzy because of it, which is really nice. But there are also not so much reunions, but a few splits as well.
We say cold and prickly for those ones?
Yes, yeah. Cold and prickly. But without further ado, I am one of your hosts, John.
And I'm one of your hosts, Derek. Welcome back.
Yes. Great episode here again from Gotham. They are absolutely solid as a rock. This season, they really are enjoying each episode as they come, and in some ways they cannot come fast enough. I really want to see how this all develops. We've had people apart who are coming together, we've had people who are together finally splitting, and we have just so much more craziness as Ivy is going on the rampage for her dastardly plans to revenge the death of her pretty plants. Yes, but all that coverage of Gotham Season 4, you can grab it here on Gotham TV Podcast. Please head on over and subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Please share the love and share the podcast. You can head on over to gothamtvpodcast.com and go to the subscribe area where you can get any of your good or evil podcast catchers of choice to listen to Season 4 of Gotham on Gotham TV Podcast. And given that this season is a Dark Knight, talking about another night, but this time Wolverine the Long Night, a 10-episode scripted podcast which is exclusively available on Stitcher Premium and stars the awesome Richard Armitage from both the Lord of the Rings, Hobbit trilogy, as well as Hannibal. And he is playing the titular Wolvie in Wolverine the Long Night, which is a Marvel scripted podcast. You can head on over to stitcher.com/premium and enter our very own promo code DEFENDERS to get a free month of this podcast on Stitcher Premium. 2 episodes have already dropped, which have been really intriguing, and it's very much like a detective investigation. So if you are a fellow detective, this should be right up your street. And of course, the 3rd episode of this scripted podcast will be available
today, actually, I think the 19th of March. Yeah.
Yes.
Every Monday, there'll be a new episode released until all 10 episodes of Wolverine the Long Night are released. I'm a big fan of podcasts. As you probably know, being a podcaster, I listen to loads of them. And the production values on this is really good. It's very like the kind of BBC audio dramas that used to be done. And are still done. Some of the ones that I've loved are things like Neil Gaiman's audio dramas that they've done with a full cast. There's sound effects in there to make you feel like you're in Alaska. There's some really cool stuff going on there. So we'd love if you listen along to Wolverine the Long Night as well. You obviously like podcasts. You're joining us on our podcast for 119 episodes, so hopefully you'll enjoy that as well. And it's a nice little gift from Stitcher to our listeners for our Defenders TV podcast and for Gotham TV podcast as well.
Yes, and it's hopefully something that you'll really love. And by using our promo code DEFENDERS, you will be supporting our podcast, Gotham TV Podcast and Defenders TV Podcast. And of course, if you've never been to the Defenders TV Podcast, why not head on over there, where we are covering the Marvel Netflix Season 2 of Jessica Jones at the moment. And again, another great investigative series of Jessica Jones here, where she is trying to find out more about her past, which is leading her into all sorts of trouble and all sorts of danger. So if you're interested, head on over to defenderstvpodcast.com and also listen to our Jessica Jones coverage there.
And not just Jessica Jones, we're also doing Doctor Strange Damnation, so a Doctor Strange comic book run, which we've never done over on Defenders TV podcast, but some of our long-term listeners on Gotham will remember that we did used to cover comics over here at the beginning. Before we had 22 episodes of a show to cover, we had loads of time to cover some comic books.
Yes, Gotham Central, which was a fantastic comic book series by Ed Brubaker, all centered around the GCPD in Gotham and their trials and tribulations in a city filled with supervillains and, of course, the Batman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. A good template for the beginning of Gotham. It's changed a lot over the years, definitely from that original template, but we've enjoyed it, and it was a great way to set us up for that pilot of Gotham. We now know the characters and we know the show, so we don't generally go back to comic books because they're not based on the same material. But I think with that, John, should we get into the episode?
Yes.
Because I want to talk about this one.
This will be a spoiler-filled review of episode 14, Reunion. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Yes, this episode was directed by Annabelle K. Frost. If you, like us, watch the credits every week, you'll have seen her name come up on as a producer for Gotham, right back from the pilot. She's been listed for 57 episodes of Gotham as a producer. But this is, weirdly, her first directorial debut on Gotham. It's the first time she's been behind the camera and behind the scenes directing the whole show. So congratulations for the jump over from producer to director, Annabelle.
Yeah, congratulations, Annabelle, for moving from producer to director. A really, really good episode here, and some excellent camera angles and framing shots for sure. I, in particular, loved how all the bodies in the bar were slumped over the bar, slumped over their bar stool, with Ivy's deathly flower sprouting out of their bodies. Yes. Really nice shot in that kind of dark and moody bar atmosphere as well. Yeah, fantastic. But who wrote this episode, Derek?
The episode was written by Peter Blake, also a producer who has got listings for about 3 or 4 episodes of Gotham in the past, but he did write A Day in the Narrows, which was episode 7 of this season as well. So 2 people that know Gotham very well overall, and I think that kind of shows in this episode. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for the episode?
Sure. Bruce tries to make amends with Alfred, but Alfred still needs to be convinced. Meanwhile, Ivy's plans gather pace as she picks her next targets, leading Gordon and Lucius back to an old friend, Harvey Bullock. As the day turns to night, Ivy, Bruce, Alfred and Jim converge on the annual Wayne Foundation dinner, where Ivy intends to kill all the guests. In the Narrows, Enigma struggles with the return of the Riddler into his consciousness and tries to rid him once and for all from his mind as he voluntarily returns to Arkham Asylum. But he is in for a big shock as the Penguin and the Riddler reunite. The Narrows experience a regime change as Sophia forcibly takes control of the district from her sister-in-law Lee Tompkins. In the aftermath of the Wayne Foundation fiasco, Bruce rediscovers his inner vigilante, and Alfred returns to Wayne Manor with him. Selina takes matters into her own hands, forever finding an enemy in Ivy, and with Lee thrown onto the streets and Sophia in ascendancy, Jim turns to Harvey for help to end Sophia's reign in Gotham.
Lots of moving parts in this episode, and as you said, John, lots of reunions. Great to see Harvey Bullock and Jim Gordon back together again, even if it was a bit rocky. Great to see Bruce and Alfred back together again, even if it was also a bit rocky. And great to see Selina and Ivy get a scene together, and a really good scene for the 2 characters. I have to say, so impressed with Cameron Bicandova in this scene between the 2 of them. A really good moment for her. She's been a little bit in the background for the last season or so, or with multiple members of the cast. So having just a single scene with another character like the new Ivy was great. And I liked how they kind of tied it in to the history of Ivy, which brings us to our first point. Case note number 1, Ivy goes after her parents' murderers. This was really cool. I love that they are bringing it right back to the pilot, right back to that moment at the beginning where Harvey took his gun and shot Ivy Pepper's father, thinking he was the murderer of Bruce Wayne's parents. That one mistake coming back to bite Harvey 3 seasons on is fantastic. I really like the choice here.
Yeah, it's a really nice look back into season 1 of Gotham and bringing it relevantly back into season 4 with Ivy on her vendetta. This time, nothing to do with the plants, but to do with her parents. And if I remember rightly, her parents really were not necessarily that great to her either.
No.
So, again, she's using this for a way to get hold of Jim Gordon, and also so that she can take down the Wayne Enterprise people at the Wayne Foundation, where also Bruce is speaking. So it's really, really good. I love the fact that the sort of shootout between Jim and Harvey, although it's Harvey doing most of the shooting, is in a whiskey barrel storage place, or it's beer. All the barrels are getting shot out and the liquor is escaping through those bullet holes. I was expecting to see Harvey kind of drinking some of that whiskey or beer as it escaped the barrels, for sure. But I really like this because it had some home truths come in here between Jim and Harvey. And Jim bit back just as much as he was bitten by Harvey Bullock, who was glamoured by Ivy's flower scent. And so he was operating under the influence of her power here. And I really also enjoyed, the bar, Harvey's bar, where he's not there, he's not working, and we see him later on slouched on the sofa, with bottles of whiskey around him. He's obviously been watching the late night game or something like that. He's still in his boxer shorts. But I love that moment, as I said, right at the start, where Ivy blows her poisonous pollen onto everyone, and you get that amazing scene when the GCPD turn up, Lucius, Jim, and they're just all slumped over with these poisonous plants sprouting from them. And of course, their immediate thought is, what about Harvey? Where he is still very much hungover in his apartment, and unknowingly for him, all this chaos is going about, and he is a target of Ivy. And especially then that he does try to go after her himself, still in his boxer shorts as well. That was a nice little touch, nice comedy moment there from old Harvey. But yeah, really, really good here.
Yeah, it was. I think a nice little nod to the fact that it was St. Patrick's Day this weekend, and our Irish Harvey Bullock is out drinking on his own and staying out of work the following day. I think some of Harvey's moments brought a little bit of levity to the show, and just like we always say about our wonderful Donal Logue playing Harvey Bullock, he also had some of the best dramatic moments in the show. Can I just call out here, because this is really where it all leads to, is the conversation between Jim and Harvey as they reunite at the end of the episode, having forgiven each other for the things they've done in the past. Harvey saying, I blamed you for too much of the things that I've done wrong in my life. I'm the one responsible for it. And after 4.5 seasons, Jim Gordon admitting he's done something wrong and needs the help of Harvey to overcome it. Fabulous scene between these two guys. And great. It's felt like a big payoff moment. Even though it's just dialogue, it's not a huge action sequence. It's leading into something else in future, but it felt like a huge payoff for their friendship and their relationship. And it needed to happen because Harvey's been pushing Jim away now for a number of episodes, a number of months, really, in our time. But it's nice to see that they really did work to get them back together and back on the same page again.
Yes, this is one of the reunions of this episode. And I mean, it is. I love the fact that Jim confesses his mistake and says, I need your help, Harvey. And I love the fact that Harvey as well, begins to realize that he also has caused many of these problems. He's not innocent in this. But I also love how, it took a few episodes, a number of episodes, in fact, for these two to come back together. It was, little steps. It was tentative. It did cause really hurtful accusations to be thrown about between the two of them.
Absolutely.
And here, it feels like a natural reunion and coming together. It really, really does. And I have to say, I am all up for Jim confessing his mistake here after 4.5 seasons. It is good to start it somewhere.
Yes. And nice little references back to our former captains of the GCPD as well. Obviously, Jim's in that role at the moment. Harvey was in it before him. We had Captain Essen at the beginning of the show, who was the murdered captain, was murdered by Jerome. And obviously, we had the crazy captain, which was Captain Barnes, who's gone a bit crazy and has now disappeared off into the sunset, executing the guilty.
Yes, he is still in the wind, like some of Ivy's poisonous pollen. And are we going to see him back executing away, being judge, jury, and executioner indeed?
I always wonder when they bring up a character that you haven't talked about in a season or so, does that mean we're going to see them again pretty soon? I suspect he may be back, joining up with Jerome and his brand new gang that will start to form as the season continues. John, do you want to go to case note number 2?
Yes, case note number 2, Ivy versus Selena. This was really good to see these two have their clash moment as well. You know, they were as tight as anything, these two. They were both friends, going, again, right back to season 1, helped each other out, street urchins, looking out for one another, protecting each other. And gradually over time, Ivy, through various ways, has become advanced in her age much quicker than Selena. But here we have Selena stand up to Ivy. You know, Selena, as she says herself, and I love that line, I'm no hero, when she's accused by Ivy of trying to be the hero to stop her plan of literally killing everyone in Gotham.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And the one thing, obviously, is that not only have they been friends, Selena has also been the one that's been taking care of Ivy much of that time. She has always been the one that's always almost been the mother figure in Ivy's life from when she found her on the street in the first season. So now for her to be looking at this older woman, 10 years or so older than her, who is treating her like a child, even though I believe Ivy's actually younger than Selena by a few years. So this is starting to wind the two of them up, and Selena knows Ivy's doing the wrong thing and has gone crazy. She's now treating the plants that are in her house as her only friends when Selena used to be her best friend.
Yeah, and like Ivy has gone way too far. I love the standoff between these two. You know, Selena destroys the last of Ivy's Lazarus water.
Yes.
And Ivy's really not expecting that and then goes for the throat. But Selena has her flick knife at Ivy's belly. So, you know, really a great little standoff between these two. And ultimately, it ends with them both giving each other the respect and moving apart, probably to be in that kind of love-hate relationship that I felt really embodies these two characters that come from the comics. You know, you really get that sense in the comics that they kind of don't mind working together when it suits them, but ultimately would always try and be out for the other. And there's this kind of this love-hate relationship where they partner up when they need to, or when Ivy needs something from Selena, and vice versa. But ultimately, they have their own separate ways. And I think here we see the divergence. This is one of the non-reunions that happen, and in fact is this kind of split up of these two characters now in a fairly substantive way.
Yeah, and I agree. There is that great moment, just to call it out as well, that Selena is the one that gives in first, closes down her switchblade and throws it up to the floor, effectively saying, I still don't believe you're going to kill me, to Ivy, even though that's the opportunity that Ivy would have had to kill her. She still believes her friend is still in there. So as you say, this is setting up the love-hate relationship between the two of them. They hopefully will come back and trust each other in the future, but they're not going to be on the same level of friends that they have been in the past. That's kind of the concept. And as you say, many of the interactions between these two characters is they tend to manipulate each other to help each other out, rather than just go into them and saying, I have a plan, do you want to join me on it? It seems they try and manipulate each other, but Selena's too smart to be manipulated most of the time, and Ivy's very smart as well. So it always leads to some really fun, interesting dynamics between the two. So I don't think this is the last we're going to see the two of them together, but they definitely won't be the same as they were in the past.
No, definitely not.
But probably one of my favorite moments of this episode.
Yeah, I think this is the moment that I've really wanted to see. I think when the character of Selena Kyle is given some excellent writing in Gotham, I think Cameron Bicondova is absolutely superb. Yeah. She's superb anyway, but when she's given a dramatic scene or scenes, is given turmoil, like we've seen with her and Bruce, I think she is absolutely fantastic because she embodies that anti-hero that the Catwoman is. You know, she is no hero, but it will not go crazy. She is not a Joker, and she is not this power mad, vengeful Poison Ivy either. And I think that's a really nice aspect to Selena Kyle's character in Gotham, as well as in the comics in general. But I think we need to get onto our third case note and one of the big reunions.
Oh, yes.
It didn't look like that at first, but we have here Bruce and Alfred tentatively reconnecting here. Again, this was really fantastic, and I'm glad that they played it and extended it out over the full episode. Again, it really just gave that realism to the fact that, Alfred was just fired by Bruce. Bruce had been a bit of a nasty bit of work to Alfred, and now he comes back asking for his help, and Alfred really is like, no, not yet. You need to show who you are and what you're about and how you want to move forward before I'm going to come back. But, he is reticent here to say yes. I still think he probably wants to deep down, but he's not going to let Bruce off the hook that easily. And I really liked how this played out. I mean, we even did see Bruce, again, being a bit shirty with Alfred again, where he said, it was a mistake for me to reach out. Mm-hmm. And you're just like, okay, so I did think that they weren't going to be getting back together in this episode at all. But the events at the Wayne Foundation annual dinner really bring Alfred and Bruce back. And not only that, but it brings Bruce back in black as well, with his vigilante outfit, which was really, really cool. I did like that.
Oh, absolutely. And the fact that he's saving people all around Alfred, and Alfred as well, just great moments seeing him step up to this moment where he is the vigilante that's able to save the people around him. I also have to say that speech by David Mazouz in front of the entire audience that's in there, where he changes the speech to include the fact that the reason why he's here today is because of Alfred. I think it's fantastic. I also like the fact that Alfred still says that's not enough. It's only when Bruce accepts who he really is that Alfred starts to come back towards him. Selena also plays a key role in these scenes as well.
Yes.
You talked about her before. The scenes that we have with Bruce and Selena in the past have always been really good when the two of those actors get to play off each other. But having Selena really tell the truths to Bruce as to how he's treated Alfred in the past, that he doesn't treat him with respect, that he needs to go out and do something about this, and she's not going to help anymore. It's another rug pulling out from under Bruce Wayne to make him realize how low he's fallen now without the help of Alfred, and he needs his friend back in his life again. So it's a great moment just to have her push him away. Another fantastic moment for Selena in this episode.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, we see Bruce get shot here. I'm sure that the shock of that just before ad break, where Bruce is shot by Jim Gordon of all people, as Bruce is kind of chasing down a number of the heavies that Ivy's brought along to disrupt this annual dinner. But yeah, Jim is there thinking it's one of those, and instead shoots Bruce. But luckily and thankfully, after the ad break, we see that Bruce did have a bulletproof vest on. And of course, whilst he's been knocked off his feet, he's still alive and unharmed.
Yeah, I've been talking about this recently because we've been covering, obviously, Jessica Jones. It's a Netflix show over on our Defenders TV podcast. I've been talking recently about the difference between those types of shows, which are an hour-long show that want to get you to press the button to watch the next show immediately, whereas Gotham has to do something so different. It has to give you a cliffhanger every 12 minutes of the show, so you keep watching that episode, and then a big moment at the end of each episode, so you come back 7 days later. It feels sometimes catching your breath watching this show can be difficult because so much is going on. We break it down into 5 points every week, but you could easily have 20 in these kinds of episodes when there's so much going on.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going back to the point of Bruce and Alfred tentatively getting back together, I love how this episode ends with Alfred going back with Bruce to Wayne Manor, fixing him up like he always did in the past, and then Bruce saying to him, I can drive you wherever you want to go, and Alfred going, why would I want to go anywhere? I'm home.
Yeah, absolutely. A little dewy-eyed there from myself whilst I was watching that.
Genuine tears. Yes.
Yeah, really, really good to see them back together. They are a great team. And it's been slightly wrenching, to be honest, to see them apart. And to hear Alfred at the start of this episode effectively turn Bruce's olive branch down was really, really interesting. I kind of did think, oh, so they are going to go that way then. And that surprised me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it because it did just make it so much more tense, and then so much more chocolate gooey center at the end when they finally are both back home and can begin on this amazing journey as Bruce and Alfred and the team up to find Batman, ultimately.
Absolutely, and I have to admit, Alfred was absolutely right to push Bruce away and give him a little bit of that knowledge that he let Alfred down. It's really important that Bruce feels this. He was, as you say, really bad to Alfred at the end of last season. He treated him so badly, and this guy has been there through everything for Bruce. So he did need to have a little bit of a push back against him. So I'm glad they were able to do that in this episode and make it feel realistic, as you said. Going on to point 4. You know what I love after doing 118 episodes of Gotham TV podcast? I love being wrong. I love being wrong because I watch this show, we scrutinize it together and have done for 4.5 years. We always think we know what's going to happen next. And when the writers do what they do to some of the characters and pull the rug out from under you, with our Riddler going to Oswald in Arkham, that was a total surprise. I mentioned on last week's podcast, I thought that Oswald was writing the letter to his friend, Ed Nigma. He hates the Riddler. Why would he be writing a letter to the Riddler? But it was all there for you on the screen if you'd been a little bit smarter than I was. The riddle that was left behind by Ed Nigma to Oswald said, "You dare not speak my name." And I'd kind of forgotten that Oswald would never speak the Riddler's name. He would never call Ed Nigma the Riddler all the way throughout season 3 and into season 4. So this was absolutely spelled out for me, and I got it wrong. So I'm very happy with that. Well done, Gotham TV writers.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, another big reunion here. The Penguin and the Riddler are reunited in Arkham from Ed Nigma effectively being tricked by his alter ego inside his head, the Riddler. I really loved the struggle of Ed Nigma at the start here, as the Riddler is just teasing him and baiting him. And I mean, to the point where, he contemplates and prepares for suicide because he has found a place with Leslie Tompkins. And in some ways that also made this really tragic because the Riddler forces him away from that. He feels like he's found a home, has Ed, but now is forced to either kill himself to get the Riddler out of Ed's head. There's a lot of Ed's heads, snared, fed, dead. But certainly, I love this struggle that he's being wrenched from his home that he's made since he was defrosted. He doesn't want to kill Leslie Tompkins. He knows that he has tried to do that when the Riddler has taken over his personality with the toy maker. And so, first it's suicide, and then he comes to that arrangement with the Riddler that he'll voluntarily put himself into Arkham Asylum, and instead that's a absolute trick by the Riddler because of this letter from Oswald. And he does a riddle of what has two eyes but cannot see, and in the end it is just simply it's Ed Nigma because he can't read the code strewn through the letter that Oswald has sent to Ed Nigma to try and reach out to the Riddler. So in the end, we have this reunion of these two massive villains in the Gotham universe, the Riddler and the Penguin.
Just after the offer from Jerome to join his big gang of the ultimate crazies of Gotham together, now we have two more pieces on that chessboard into Arkham Asylum. That's really cool. Really intrigued about what this means. How is the Riddler going to work with Jerome and Oswald in the future? This is going to be interesting.
Yes, this will be one unhappy family, I think, of the creme de chaos.
Yes.
And I suspect they will all be in it for themselves. It will certainly be a Julius Caesar moment at some point. I'm sure there will be a lots of stabbing in the back. But speaking of dysfunctional families, I think onto case note number 5.
Another surprise. Yeah.
A family, but a family that is broken. There is trouble in Family Falcone, yes. Sophia and Leslie Tompkins. I actually thought it was quite nice just to just remind everyone that Leslie is in fact her sister-in-law through the marriage to Mario, however short that was. And here was just a fantastic bit of between a rock and a hard place for Leslie Tompkins. You know, Sophia gives her an impossible condition to meet in terms of getting 30% of all the legal and illegal revenue raised in the Narrows to Sophia. And in the end, that gets Leslie scrambling. I do love Ed Nigma here, helping her out with his little spy network of children. I thought that was really, really cool. But
hilarious.
But ultimately, they do work their magic, and they understand that this is about getting after Jim, and she realizes that she's trying to do that through Leslie. However, in the end, it is all simply a bit of a ruse. Like, Sophia is absolutely dead set on what she wants, and she is uncompromising in how she'll get it, and that is fantastic. I mean, she really is driven, and she is really, really quite evil. And I think that the hammer scene with Leslie Tompkins, I was just not expecting.
Yeah.
You know, I really did think that Leslie had come on a solution here where she could retain the Narrows, and instead it's just thrown out. It's thrown aside by Sophia, and she really hammers home the point, dare I say it, of being loyal to her, and she feels that Leslie hasn't, as well as ultimately trying to get at Jim Gordon. And yeah, 4 or 5 hammer smashes to Leslie's hand, and she winds up in hospital, but she isn't saying anything though. And here Sophia deposes Leslie Tompkins and reinstates Samson, the larger than life character who used to control the Narrows and who Leslie had poisoned and then given the antidote to. But yes, here she is thrown out onto the streets, and Samson comes in to take her place, to work and bend the knee for Sophia. So Sophia is really trying to, you know, absolutely tighten her control, in fact get complete control in Gotham now, because this was the remaining district of Gotham that hadn't as such bended the knee. The interesting thing is as well, Leslie had offered to bend the knee as well, and to be her loyal subject, at least to keep the peace, and again completely thrown aside by Sophia here. So whilst not a reunion, more of a family divorce, so to speak, as to what's happened here. Again, I love these different contrasts of reunions and of course breakups that are going on throughout this episode. It's really, really good.
Yeah, I was definitely getting some Game of Thrones vibes in here. With the talk of bending the knee to the Queen of Gotham. It's definitely getting some Cersei Lannister moments from Sophia in here. And also fun for the second time this week to be talking about a doctor with broken hands.
Yes.
After Doctor Strange, yeah. But of course, she only has one broken hand, because Sophia does say, since you're my sister, I'll only do one.
She does one hand, but she hits it about 5 or 6 times. I really was expecting her to hit it just once.
Yeah.
And then the hammer blows just kept on coming. And ultimately, this leads to, as you were saying earlier, Jim and Harvey coming together as they really acknowledge what they've done to each other. And Jim in particular acknowledges his mistake, his error, and confesses. But ultimately now we have gung-ho Harvey and Jim out to take down Sophia. So this will be pretty mighty, I think.
I think so.
Pretty mighty.
I think so. So those are our top 5 case notes of the week. Any moment of the week that stands out amongst all those wonderful moments this episode, John?
There are loads for me. I loved the barfly being geraniumed here. Absolutely loved that. And again, in terms of smaller characters, I would go with the barfly. There weren't that many in this episode, but just the fact that he's speaking with Ivy, and I loved his pose slumped over his own bar with this geranium, killer geranium, sprouting from his torso.
That actually just brings up a quick question for me. Ivy's now lost the ability to create new weapons based on the Lazarus liquid that was destroyed by Selena, but these plants regrow in the host after she blows the plants. So does that mean she can effectively create an unlimited supply of these killer plants if she just keeps seeding them over and over again? Gardener John, any ideas?
I would say so. Yeah. I would say, they're all poisonous, even the ones sprouting from the torsos. I also love that the little center flower display on each of the tables at Wayne's Foundation's annual dinner had one of her poisonous plants as well. So I suspect, yes, that is the case.
Probably come back. And I did like Lucius Fox making sure that everybody stayed well clear of those plants as well. That was quite cool. Great to see Lucius Fox being used in all of the episodes so far this season. It's been, or this half of the season, it's been good seeing him being used much more regularly in the show.
But certainly, I think some of the other moments of the week, we have Bruce back in his outfit.
Yeah.
We have Bruce being shot. We think he's dead, but luckily his Kevlar comes to his rescue.
Well, you say we think he's dead, but we know he's not.
No.
But it's a surprising moment, definitely.
We have hammer time with Sophia and Leslie, so loads of really big moments in Gotham this week.
Mm-hmm. As for Gotham Character of the Week, it's so difficult to pick a character this week. We usually, as John said, we usually go for a smaller character, but this had so many of our major characters in the show this week. I think Selena just got it a little bit more, just a nose above some of the other characters in the show because she hasn't had a big moment for a bit of a while. So it's really good to see her get two great moments, one with Bruce and the other with Ivy, in this episode. I hope to see lots more of Cameron Bricandova in the show in the future because she can tend to be blended into the background when she's with the Sirens, because both of the other Sirens are pretty crazy and stand out quite significantly. So all three of them tend to be on a level playing field. I'd like to see some really good moments with Selena coming up, and this was a great episode for her.
Yes, I would definitely agree with you on Character of the Week. I think Selena Kyle was awesome, and Cameron Bricandova really played it so well. So definitely Selena Kyle for me as well.
Which, of course, is not taking away from how wonderful David Mazouz and Sean Pertwee were this week. They were, once again, great, but I think if we gave them Character of the Week, we'd be doing it every week, really.
Yeah.
Because we've always said their moments together are some of the best on the show. John, how would you rate Gotham Season 4, Episode 14, Reunion?
I would give this 4.5 hammer smacks out of 5.
Ooh, half a hammer smack.
Yes.
That's still probably a sore after the first 4, but yeah, that's 4.5 out of 5 for this week.
Yeah, a really, really good episode. Mm-hmm. The title of the episode says it all here. We have coming togethers and breaking apart of really key characters here. We have the return of the Riddler. We have almost the return of the Penguin as well. He is taking on his own alter ego from Oswald by, in effect, calling upon the Riddler here. I loved Selena Kyle confront Ivy. I just thought that was such a good thing to have in the show because, these two have been solid as those street urchins, and now as they have matured and grown up, they've parted ways because one is effectively gone crazy with plant juice, and the other is beginning to find herself and know who she is, and I really, really enjoyed that. We have Bruce and Alfred coming together and Jim and Harvey coming together. What is not to like here? And I think what makes it even better is that they took their time. They really explored how people would be upset, be reticent about coming back together and joining back up again.
Yeah.
So it really felt natural, and it really just developed those relationships so much. And then, of course, you have Sophia as well, kind of going crazy on power here and taking down her own sister-in-law. So massive events going on in this episode of Gotham. And again, looking forward to the next episode, as I am saying all the time now when I'm reviewing Gotham.
Yeah, totally agree with you. This is another fantastic episode with great cliffhangers, great moments of excitement throughout the show. Really, really enjoyed it. I think we've talked enough for a couple of minutes. John, do you want to go on to feedback?
Sure do.
Our first piece of feedback is a voicemail feedback from Claire Payne.
The title of this episode, Reunion, has been the clearest of any of the Gotham titles. There was acceptance, good reunions and bad reunions between sisters that didn't end up so well. Boo for Sophia for using a hammer on Lee's hand. I am continually impressed by Ivy and her storyline. As all good villains in Gotham, she used television as a media to spread the word that the people of Gotham would be turning into a botanical city. Really clever how Ivy's revenge on Harvey for killing her father brought Jim and Harvey back working together. A few truths were omitted by Harvey in that he lays just as much rubbish on Jim, and Jim confessing about covering up Sophia killing Professor Pig. We'll hopefully see Harvey with his badge back next week. Selena is my character of the week. Gotham does drama extremely well, but it's never OTT. Selena's maturity with Jim near the beginning of the episode was impressive. Selena's advice to Bruce was honest, and she put her life in the hands of Ivy. Loved how Selena got the last of the Lazarus water by using her whip and then destroyed it. Selena being warned not to get in Ivy's way again was a great way to end this intense scene. Ed versus Ed has to be my favourite scene, from discussing cuckoo pills to nearly hanging himself and then eventually deciding to voluntarily put himself back in Arkham so Ed won't harm Leslie. With the reveal of Oswald's letter actually written to the Riddler, in which the Riddler being persuaded to go to Arkham, Oswald accepting that Ed is the Riddler, was a delight to see these two ready to start working together again. Alfred was absolutely right to deliver the tough truth to Bruce. I was amazed at how emotional these scenes were. The speech at the fundraiser, where Bruce changed his words to show Alfred how sorry he was, didn't get his friend back. But when Bruce wanted to save Alfred dressed in a dark hood and partial face mask, I loved the proud look on Alfred's face when Bruce went to save the other people in the ballroom. I don't think this was a crazy episode compared to last week's, as it had a great amount of drama. After all, Harvey did forget his pants. Reunion has set a good pace for the rest of the season, which I am sure will be crazy. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon.
Thanks so much for that piece of feedback, Claire. Really good to hear your thoughts on the episodes. Yeah, actually, we were talking about it last episode, about it being advertised as another crazy week in Gotham. And last week definitely was crazier. This was much more of a drama-filled episode. And it's a really good point that you make, Claire, in terms of the drama on this show. The drama itself is never extreme. The drama's good drama. The show can be extreme, though. Some of the things they do on the show can be quite extreme, but the drama itself is well written and usually well paced and very well acted. So a really good point about Gotham.
Yeah, thank you, Claire, for that. I completely agree with you on Ed versus Ed. So good. Mm-hmm. Yes, boo for Sophia, indeed. I think she went slightly overboard on attacking her own sister-in-law with Leslie Tompkins. And certainly now that Leslie has that confidence that she's developed in the Narrows, I suspect, for example, Samson will not be let off so lightly when she's out of hospital. And I think Sophia as well should be looking over her shoulder for Leslie Tompkins. Yeah, Ivy's storyline has been fantastic, and I'd be really interested to see where it goes from here now, because we can't just simply have her going after Wayne Enterprises sort of ad infinitum. Maybe she will. Maybe she'll take a different tact. Yeah. Maybe she shall try and burrow under Wayne Manor with tree roots or something. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see how and where her story goes here. Will it be more confrontation with Selena, or will these two be keeping a respectful distance? Definitely. Yeah, great episode of Gotham, and indeed the drama is of high quality.
Yeah, and you've reminded me of something that I wanted to do when I watched the episode. I wanted to go side by side with that Poison Ivy on screen versus Jerome back when he kidnapped Captain Essen, or held the GCPD, and talked on the screen to the city of Gotham. I'd love to put those two side by side. I noticed a really good touch from the director of the episode as you were getting little bits of fade on the camera that was being broadcast by Poison Ivy. You get green flashes going through like plants, effectively. Something similar was happening when Jerome was doing his speech to Gotham. So I want to do those side by side, but a nice little call out there.
We also have some feedback over on our Facebook group over at facebook.com/groups/Gotham TV podcast. Johnny Reese goes, "So good to have things return to their natural state of being." From Alfred, "I'm not going anywhere, sir. I'm home." And from Harvey, "I've been a bad man." Yes, you were, Harvey. In particular, flashing those legs to everyone at such an early time of the morning. It's a good job you remembered, though, that you weren't wearing any pants. True. And yeah, I think as we said previously, to hear Alfred mutter those words, "I'm not going anywhere, sir. I'm home," was pure soft-centeredness and so good to hear.
Yeah. Richard Blaze says, thought it started out as a bit of a filler episode, but gathered pace at a ridiculous speed. Anyone else begin to squeal with excitement when Bruce put the mask/hood on and started to dispatch with the bad? Yeah, I think you could probably hear me outside of my house with how excited I was at seeing that scene, Richard.
Yes, and then finally, Oswald Clifton goes, loved every second of the episode. It truly felt like an actual Batman episode, especially when Bruce put on the hood and mask to save Alfred, and Jim chasing after him. It also reminded me of Batman Begins as well. Yeah. Finally, Penguin and Riddler's scene was beyond perfect. Yeah, the scenes here were just incredible from everyone, and it was great to see Bruce put on that black hood for sure, and yeah, reconnect with his inner vigilante.
Yes, and I totally agree with you. Those moments between Penguin and Riddler, just a little taster of what we're going to see in future. It's great to see them back together. They've been apart for way too long.
Yeah, so thank you, Claire, Johnny, Richard, and Oswald for all that feedback. It is really appreciated.
Absolutely. Send in your feedback to us on feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com or over in our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/GothamTVPodcast. Just one other thing to mention, there was a little bit of a rumour going around this weekend over on Twitter that Gotham has been officially renewed for season 5. It's incorrect. There isn't an official renewal out there. We'll absolutely be talking about it as soon as there's an official confirmation. We've heard nothing from Fox about it at all. It seems that a site has kind of jumped the gun a little bit. It's a little bit unfortunate because it means that we don't get to be as excited as we will be when I think we're going to get our renewal for Gotham Season 5 pretty soon. It's usually around May time for a show that's this late into its run. It's only 2 episodes back from its big break after Christmas time, so I don't think they've had time to evaluate the show yet and decide whether they're going to give it a Season 5. But we know Season 4 has finished filming now, so it won't be long before they make the decision on Season 5. So let's all get really excited when we get an official confirmation. But it is a little bit of a pity that this story is doing the rounds without any kind of sourcing on it at all.
Yeah, it's tough to know whether it's true or not, because ultimately something that big, certainly if it's official, you would expect press releases from Fox, of which there hasn't been any. And certainly last time when it was renewed for season 4, all the cast were promoting that as well on Twitter and on Facebook. So nothing along those lines as of yet. So it would suggest to me a false start at the moment on the starting blocks. But we are definitely hopeful that a season 5 will be renewed, because there's certainly time available for Fox to make that decision.
Oh, without a doubt. I think they'd just be shouting it for the rooftops. And so would we, of course, because that would mean Gotham TV Podcast season 5.5, actually.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us, fellow detectives and Gothamites, for this episode of Gotham TV Podcast. We'll be back next week for Gotham: A Dark Knight, Season 4, Episode 15, The Sinking Ship, The Grand Applause.
Intriguing title. I love it. It sounds so kind of epic, yeah, and kind of ye olde. I'm thinking 1930s Titanic here. Charleston being danced around Gotham by various people. I don't know. That's really, I love that title. It is really so good.
Do you think we're going to get a flashback to the early days of Gotham again?
Oh, could be.
As the ships arrive to grand applause.
Yes.
Sinking, though, unfortunately.
But what's the sinking ship? I wonder if it's Arkham. It's finally sinking under the weight of Jerome, the Penguin, and the Riddler.
Or it could be the Nigmobble ship is sinking.
Yes.
Possibly.
To grand applause from Jerome.
Maybe. Thank you so much for joining us again. We will talk to you next time.
Yeah, as always, it has been great speaking with you, and we'll speak with you again next time. Bye.
Thanks for being a Butch supporter. Butch loves you, baby.